For me, my support for Lam Lay is somewhat personal as well as related to all of the work that I've ever done. Um, I did work with Vietnamese refugees and other Southeast Asian refugees way back in the 70s, probably around the time he was preparing to come, maybe a little before he came. And so getting to know many people's stories and their arrival to the US helped me understand the context in which they were coming. And for me at that particular time, someone who was involved in the anti-war movement and understanding kind of the tremendous amount of violence that people were enduring in Vietnam for both citizens who were being killed as well as for even those in the military and the Saigon military and the North Vietnamese as well. But it's become even more personal to me around folks from Vietnam because my son-in-law is a Vietnamese refugee. He was the youngest of 13 in his family, and he left with his 5 brothers on a boat from their home near Buena in Vietnam and ended up going to a refugee camp and then finally being able to come to the United States. And so um, we visited their family and, we've gotten to know some other kind of intricacies of stories of folks as well. And I think it's just tragic the way that war devastates people's lives and violence of militarism does that. And our American military was central to what happened in Vietnam and to many of the Vietnamese people who are still there, as well as Vietnamese who've come here as refugees as well. And so, of course, Lam Lay's story is among the thousands of stories of people who fled Vietnam at that period in time. And we've heard the story of how he survived the refugee camps and then made it to California. But like many of the refugees who resettled in different places, they had tough neighborhoods to grow up into. And I think what's tragic for his life is that the violence of Vietnam and the Vietnam War was transferred into another setting of violence, and that is the violence of um, gang warfare. And he was caught up in that and ended up killing someone in the process, a young person. Um, but what I also kind of feel the redemptive tone in his story is the fact that he spent 32 years in prison for his crime. And in prison, he found the opportunities to restore dignity to his life and to find a place of healing from his childhood trauma of all the violence that took place from where he came from. And I was also very much intrigued by the fact that he came to faith as a Christian as part of that story, and that he really developed this determination to transform his life personally and to make amends for what he had done in the past in terms of taking the life of another person, but also becoming a new person to contribute to the community that he's living in and to contribute to life around him. So I think what's been tragic, though, is with his release from San Quentin, at the age of 52, that his goal of personal transformation was aborted because ICE picked him up and then began to be processed through the system of immigration, where he was deemed to be among those deportable back to Vietnam. And I think this is just such a grave injustice for his personal life, but also for all of those others who kind of fall into this kind of category. And that, um, I think about the Christian ethic of repentance, and that what Lam has gone through is a personal repentance. And we talk about repentance, the meaning of the word really means to turn around, that he's turned his life around and is sought a new way for his own life. And I think we need to call on our a system within ICE for repentance for the ways that they're continuing to harm people's lives systematically. And we need new policies on how we're treating people, particularly in the bigger picture, but in this case specifically for Lam Lay, that we need to turn around and offer him life that he deserves because he's done his time and he has made a personal conviction to change his life. And we can help him do that if we can reverse the course of what ICE has done in terms of putting him on the agenda for deportation. So I really support the efforts that Suda for Solidarity is making to campaign for his uh, efforts with the pardon from Governor Gavin Newsom, and that to galvanize the community, to raise voices, and to speak out for Lamley, but also for others who are in this particular vulnerable situation as well. And because Suda for Solidarity comes from a place of representing Japanese American community stories and history, we also invoke our ancestors who have been subjected to mass incarceration because of politics and because of the politics of war and because of racism. And we know those things are at play as well with Lam's situation in terms of how disproportionately Asians are being dealt with in immigration system. So for me, the message is to Governor Newsom, do what's right, give Lam a pardon, look at all those other situations as well, and let's look for new policies in which we can turn ourselves around in the right course that values life and gives life to new life to people.